Welcome back, everybody, to Tulum Magazine. And this is the episode where we talk to movers and shakers and people who are transforming their lives through travel. And we have a nomadic family that has stopped in Tulum. And I'm so happy to be talking to Courtney of the O family. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Absolutely. So, nomadic family. Tell me, how did that journey begin for you?
Ooh, I think at first we just wanted to travel,
Yeah.
right? And especially coming out of like post-COVID days, I think our world had gotten really small. We had just bought this house, this like big beautiful house with this yard, and Xavier, who was an only child at the time, had a playroom, and we put like a jungle gym in the backyard for him, and
Yeah.
my husband Justin and I were working from home, and we built this like, self-contained, everything we need is within this little like, place. And
Yeah.
it just got to a point where we were like, we've like been in the house just looking at these four walls and each other for quite some time now. And after we took our first trip with Zay,
Yeah.
I think it became apparent like that the itch like started all over again. It's like we just gotta get out, we just gotta get out.
Yeah.
And so we traveled for some time, and after we found out that we were gonna have Whitley, I think it hit this moment of like, we either like just make a big bold move now,
Yeah.
or we're really putting down roots, and it's going to be more difficult to get out and to go and to get up and to see the world the way that we want to.
Yeah.
I think that at first we thought we would be able to do slow travel, so we'd be able to spend a couple weeks to like a couple months places, but then having to like come back and go,
Yeah.
and then you're paying for accommodations and mortgage, it became a lot. So I looked at Justin one day and I was like, let's just sell everything and leave. And fortunately, because of the kind of man that I married, he looked at me and he's like, we could talk about it. And
Yeah.
I was like, I'll take it, because
Yeah.
that's not a no.
Yeah. Yeah.
So fast forward a year and a half,
Yeah.
and we've just been out here with the kids bopping around
What was the first place you went with Xavier?
with Xavier.
Yeah.
I think the first it was actually Canada.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think his
Okay.
first, Justin's
Okay.
from Toronto.
Okay.
And we went up there, I want to say it was in November. And
Okay.
everyone promised me it would not snow. I'm a Florida girl. They promised me it wouldn't
What?
snow.
November? That's when.
They promised me it wouldn't snow. We got there, it was cold, it was snowing, but that was Xavier's first time really getting to like interact with like real snow, not
Yeah.
the kind that we get in Georgia.
Oh, that must have been magical for him.
Yeah, it was lovely. We got to see family, got to see snow, it was a good time, despite the cold.
And speaking of family, what did family think when you were like, we're going to give up the house? Did you give up the house, or did you just rent it out?
We sold it.
You sold it?
And all the stuff in it.
Really?
Yeah.
And what was
Saved a
family
couple
thinking
things.
when you were, what were they saying to you?
They think we're nuts.
Yeah.
But they've always thought that, I think they were more supportive than I think I had anticipated.
Yeah.
But at this point, they just know we're nuts. Even, Whitley and Xavier, they were home births.
Yeah.
And so I even remember from the first conversation now, almost 4 years ago, saying, okay, so no one panic, we're going to have the baby in the living room.
Yeah.
And then just basically being like, well, we know we can't talk you out of it, so how can we help?
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the same approach that they took this time, was really just like, your mind is made up, we have passports, we'll make it work.
Right. So I'm going to take this conversation a direction you might not have expected, but I know that some of us who are out here, or some who are home and thinking about these things because they are marrying age or they're still single, how did you find a man that was willing to travel? Let's talk let's talk about this. Did he have a passport when you met him?
Yeah. So Justin is an immigrant who comes from immigrants.
Okay.
And I think that helps.
Yes.
So his heritage is in Grenada.
Okay.
And he wound up in Atlanta
Makes
by way of
sense.
Toronto.
Makes sense.
So I think that's part of it. I think the other thing is, I'm a spicy, bold person.
Okay.
Like, if I can just say that, right? Like, I've always been that way.
Yeah.
I like to call myself vivacious.
Yes.
But only like in the mirror when I'm giving myself my pep talks. But I do think like for anyone who's going to be with me, I think there's a certain aspect of like, babe, you're going to be on your toes.
Yeah.
But it's going to be fun. You're going to love it over here, I promise.
Yeah.
But you know, when we first got together, I don't think
Did he know that
was like a priority.
I see.
It's not like you know, living abroad or traveling full time or any of this was like on our radar.
Yeah.
When Justin and I first got together, we actually went to high school together.
Right.
And then we connected a few years like post, and we started dating. We were best friends.
Yeah.
It's a whole cute love story, but I'll spare you that part. But when we first got together, it was very much a thing of like, we're gonna, you know, climb corporate ladders
Yes.
and like build a life and buy a house and 2 cars in the garage, and you know, we were on that trajectory.
Yeah.
And then I think after we got there, where it's like we have the house with the 2 cars in the garage, and we have the careers, and we have the baby, and another
Yeah.
one's on the way, it was kind of like,
Yeah.
is there more to this? You know, and so I think that's kind of where it came from. Is
Yeah.
this notion of like, we did all the things we were like supposed to do,
Right.
and now we still want more.
Yeah.
So I think the wanting more aspect is kind of, if you can find someone that always wants more, or they want different experiences, or they want better for themselves, someone that has any sort of drive for ascension, for elevation,
Yeah.
whatever that looks or feels like, I think that the potential is always there, no matter how crazy the idea.
Yeah. That's wonderful. So let's talk about that more. How many countries have you guys traveled to as a family?
As a family,
Because you guys are just on your journey, right? It's been a year and a half now.
yeah, it's been a year and a half. I think, so I know Xavier has been to 11 countries on 4 continents.
Wow.
And then with Whitley, I think she's like 3 or 4 countries behind him.
Yeah.
Right. But Zay, yeah, he's been to 11 countries on 4 continents. He's been to Europe several times, North America, South America, and then also Africa. We haven't made it to Asia yet.
Yeah.
Or Australia, or obviously Antarctica, but yeah, we've been moving.
So let's ask some questions that parents might think about. So what part of the world, out of the places that you've been to, has been most accommodating for children? Where have you felt the least stressed?
Right. I think Rio de Janeiro is a big one.
Okay.
They have they have a great train system. So it's just easy to move around without
Right.
having to worry about like taxis or car seats or like any
Right.
of that. They have a great bike culture. So there are a
Okay.
lot of just other people and parents out there with kids just like on the bike. The beach is incredible. There's lots to do. It's just a gorgeous place. I'm super
Right.
in love with Rio. I don't speak a lick of Portuguese.
Yeah.
I'm in love with Rio. And I think the other place is Lisbon. We had a
Okay.
great time in Portugal.
I've heard a lot.
Again, the bus
Good.
system, it's super easy to get around. It's beautiful. It's very family friendly. There were just random parks all over the place.
Yeah.
Wow, yeah, both of those places are Portuguese. I think those two. And then also, of course, Mexico City.
Right.
We love. I think there are a lot of expats in Mexico City, but it's very similar, right? As long as somewhere's easy to get around, relatively safe in the area you're going to be in, because
Yeah.
everywhere has dangerous pockets and safer pockets.
Yeah.
And then there are just amenities for children. So be that like malls that have little, you know, gymboree
Yeah.
spaces, or parks out, you know, or like a beach or something to do. Those are the main things.
And you mentioned safety. So what are some of the checks that you do that say, oh, okay, yeah, I think we'll be good for the kids here?
Right. So as far as safety goes, and this is a question we get a lot, and it's an important one,
Yeah.
so I get that. I think, number one, researching for yourself.
Yeah.
So like one thing that we hear, I'm sure you hear all a lot, Mexico is so dangerous. You
Yeah.
know, what about the cartel? The cartel's not worried about it.
Yeah,
They're not.
they're
I
not.
promise. They have bigger fish to fry. But I think for us, it's a lot of like, obviously if somewhere is like war torn,
Yeah.
it's not on the radar.
Yeah.
If some,
You're not trying to be running with the kids.
I'm really not. You know what I mean? Like, I have no desire. I think that like those really big ones like that, like I think it was last year they like shut down Machu Picchu because Peru was like going through it. I wanted to go to Peru.
Right.
And then something like that pops up on the radar and it's like, you know what? Let's let them chill.
Right.
I think that the other thing is looking at the different parts. Like, countries are big.
Yeah.
Right? The U.S. is big.
Yeah.
Are you going to be in certain places in downtown, Detroit or Philadelphia or L.A. or New York, like with your children?
Probably not.
By yourself?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
But, like, are you safe in different parts of the country or different parts of these cities? So I think that's the other thing is, like, putting some real thought into, like, not just the country and not even just the city, but, like, where within the city are you looking to stay?
Right.
And then from there, too, I think as much as you can connecting with, like, other parents who've had kids, just because there are certain things even, like, in regards to safety, like, in Mexico, a lot of the stairs just don't have railings.
Yeah.
Right? But that's not something that I think maybe a lot of people that don't have kids would think about. Like,
Right.
Lily's just starting to walk. So
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, she can't just be on
Yeah.
stairs.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's true. And so you must get this question a lot. Like, how do you guys afford to live this lifestyle? Are you still working? How are you living off of savings? Are you working while you're on the road?
Yeah. I think sometimes I say this and people love it, and sometimes I say it and they're almost disappointed, but
Yeah.
we're 9-to-5 employees. And then naturally, right, the next question is, but how? With the kids?
Yeah.
Moving? We flex our schedules. So we both work in tech, Justin's in sales, and I'm in post-sale, onboarding, and implementation.
Right.
And one thing about tech is the benefits are great, and
Yeah.
also the culture tends to be better
Yeah.
than like just older, more established
For
companies.
sure.
So having control over our schedules so that we can flex them around childcare, around naps, things like this. And then also our companies have unlimited PTO.
Yeah.
So one thing that helps is to make like settling in and traveling a little easier, taking that extra day or maybe two when we hit a new country to make sure that we're acclimated to the time zone, kids are adjusting, all of that good stuff. Makes it better. So we sold our house,
Yeah.
and that did provide some cushion.
Yeah.
But as opposed to just like running through
The
that money
money,
as
yeah.
we travel, we decided to just keep our jobs.
Yeah, because you could.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, it'd be easy. I'm sure. Please.
Thank you, Tech. Thank you, Tech. So you guys have been staying in Guadalajara for a bit?
Yeah, we lived last year in Guadalajara for like 7-8 months.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What was that like?
You know what? It was nice.
Yeah.
That was our base. And I think we got to Guadalajara. Whitley was like 3 months old.
Yeah.
She was only 10 weeks when we
Yeah.
left the U.S. and came to Mexico.
Wow.
We landed in Playa. We
You
did
are a
Tulum.
superwoman.
And then we popped to Guadalajara. I know all of the abuelas though were like very concerned when we first got there.
Yeah.
They're looking at her. They're just like, in Spanish, of course, like you brought her on the plane all the way from the U.S. and she doesn't have socks on. And I'm like, so grandmas.
But it's hot outside.
Like, grandmas are the same everywhere. But it was great. So Guadalajara is Mexico's second largest city. It's actually called like the Silicon Valley of Mexico.
Oh, okay.
So we chose it for the community that we knew existed there, and then also because it just had everything we knew we were going to need.
Okay.
Especially for this being like our first home base out
Yeah.
of the U.S. and having such a little baby. It's like, are there schools? Are there hospitals? Like, how are the roads? Is the electricity
Yeah.
good? What about the Wi-Fi? All that stuff.
Yeah.
So Guadalajara is super nice, and it's kind of like central Mexico, so it's a good jumping off point. We were able to explore Sayulita, Puerto Vallarta. We got to like Mexico City. We were back and forth with Playa and Tulum like the
Yeah.
whole time we were there, which was nice.
That's awesome. What about food? So you guys have experienced many countries, many cuisines. How do you navigate with kids? Are your kids fussy or not? Has that changed over time or not?
Yeah, they go through phases.
Yeah.
So Xavier is almost 4. He'll be 4. Oh my God, it's August. He'll be 4 this month. And I don't know. He goes through his little phases and his moods.
Yeah.
But he's more or less willing to at least try everything. As long as it doesn't look like too funny.
Yeah.
Or there's like a little side of ketchup, he's at least willing to try.
Right.
Which I'm like, sure. Anything, he'll eat any sort of like bread. So like we're in France and he's pounding the croissants, like he's got like the tortillas here. There are a few kind of like staples.
Yeah.
And then we just try to keep the staples present and then introduce like something new or something different. He's good about it.
Yeah.
Whitley, the same. So she's almost a year and a half, not quite. And she's a pretty adventurous eater.
Yeah.
Like, she'll at least put anything in her mouth, but then really quickly she decides whether like she likes that or she doesn't.
Yeah.
But they're both pretty good eaters. I think with little kids, it's always kind of just like, you know, what do you mean you don't eat hot dogs today? You literally had a hot dog yesterday, you know, or like, oh, I don't like broccoli. And you're like, okay, well, you know. So there's that.
They got used to so much
things.
variety.
Yeah, they try things, and that's really all we ask. We're like, just try it. You know, if you don't like it, not a big deal. If you do like it, great.
I know I was mentioning earlier how your son is so confident in interacting with adults. I think there's that balance between, you know, staying close to mom and dad, but also not being shy to have a conversation with an adult, which I think is going to really bode well for him in his future. You know, as a parent, what are some of the things that you would say to other parents about, you know, taking this kind of journey and the impact on kids? Because, you know, we're sold this narrative of stability and what stability means. You know, what does stability mean to you in this context?
Right. No, that's a great question. I think, and that's something that I think of all of the unsolicited, not so nice comments that we get.
Yeah.
This notion of home and stability for the kids is probably one of the biggest ones.
Yeah.
Xavier is one of the more well-adjusted people that I know.
Absolutely.
And I think that a big part of that is because he doesn't have like unnecessary or unhelpful fears.
Yeah.
So like when you met him yesterday, he was like behind my leg a little
Yeah.
bit. He's looking at you, right?
Yeah.
He's kind of, you know, how is mommy interacting with this person?
Yeah.
Is she safe? Is she not?
Right.
Within 5-10 minutes, you pass the vibe check, and he's like, yeah, come on, you know, bring me to get some chips. Like, hey, you know, he's chatting, he's picking up the microphone. He's fine.
Yeah.
And I think that more like internal sense of stability and like internal locus of control and being rooted within oneself, and not to get too deep, right? Because he's 4, but like 4-year-olds turn into 30-year-olds, right? I think is one of the more beautiful things that I've seen.
Yeah.
Right? He doesn't rely on places or situations or things to make him feel comfortable, safer at home, the way that he relies on himself and how he feels in his body, and the way that he relies on knowing that, you know, daddy and mommy are like right here and we're all together as a unit.
Wow.
And I think that's really beautiful. Xavier is rooted within himself, which sometimes is
that is such a gift. No, that's such a gift. Like, you guys have given him that. That's a gift, because in adulthood he is gonna need that, right? As we so know, you know, he's gonna need that. I love that, and I love the way you and your husband interact. You know, I always say that travel is a good litmus test of relationships. You know, we know that there's some girlfriends that you could hang out with on Sunday at the brunch, but travel with them and your friendships might not survive that.
Oh yeah.
You know, what are some of the relationship tips you might give for people who are considering, like, you know, traveling with a mate or traveling with somebody they might be dating, or, you know, what are some of the relationship lessons you've learned?
Yeah, I think with anything new, I would say that alignment and over communication are going to be the two biggest things, right? Like, before you go, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What do you want that to look like? What do you want it to feel like? Do you want to wake up at 5 a.m. to go hiking, or would you like to sleep in and have room service delivered at 10?
Right.
You know, and that seems like sort of a silly example, but I think too, when we're traveling with people we love, whether that's a spouse or a friend, we do this thing where it's like, well, you know, I don't like that, but I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to ruin the vibe. And then they're doing the same thing, and then eventually something blows up.
Right.
And I think that one thing that Justin and I learned early on is, like, the second you, like, feel it, say it.
Right.
You know, so that you're not in a situation where it's like, well, 3 countries ago, you did this thing that got on my nerves, and I'm just, sitting on the plane shaking. I'm so mad about it. Like, don't let it get to that point.
Right.
I think that's the biggest thing. And then with alignment too, I think having a solid understanding of like where you're flexible and where you're concrete.
Yeah. As
individuals, but also as a couple or a unit or whatever is important. Like, we wound up early in our relationship and traveling somewhere and staying in a hotel that was not so nice.
Right.
It was not so nice. There was a bug that just fell straight up the wall. Right. But from the second we got there, I was looking around the lobby like, ugh. And we got in the elevator and Justin's like, ugh. And we just tried to like thug it out, right? Because neither of us wanted to be difficult.
Yeah.
And it just turned into like this big blow up of a situation, and we wound up leaving and we're fine.
Yeah.
But I think early on that taught us this notion of like, if you feel a way, say something about it quickly so that we don't have anything sort of carrying on. And now that we have kids, it's that same thing with them too. Like, even teaching them, to speak up about something. The other day Zay was like, Mommy, I don't like the toilet in that bathroom, so I'm going to use this one.
Okay, now.
And I'm just like, okay. Why? They're the same, you know what I mean? But also like, thank you for telling me.
Yeah.
And so I think with traveling with people, that's like kind of the biggest thing is like, don't try to just, be the bigger person or be easygoing or whatever. Like, be who you are and like say what you need to say so that everything can just flow the way it needs to.
Yeah. Oh, that's such good advice. What other advice would you give parents in terms of like gear? Because I think about, when my kids were young, it's like the stroller, the like car seat, so when you're traveling, what are some of your must-haves? Your like, if we had to like leave some stuff, we're going to leave these things, but these things I need to make sure I have.
Right. I know, that one's always, it's hard because it depends where you're going.
Okay.
I'll caveat it by saying that. I feel like for us, we typically bring a stroller.
Okay.
Because it can
like
work
the folder
for
ones or like your big one?
We like a nice
sturdy
stroller with weight to it, okay? And I say that because sometimes it's not even about putting the kids in it, it's about putting other stuff in it. Like, especially you're somewhere like here where they're not big on like plastic bags for groceries. It's like we can go to the grocery store, throw everything under the stroller and not have to worry about it. I do like a stroller. I like a diaper bag. In the diaper bag, I prefer to have, we have this like folding, it's like cloth, but it's a high chair.
Oh.
So it's like a high chair that kind of like buckles and it can attach to like most any chair you're sitting in for Whitley. And so restaurants have high chairs. They're oftentimes grungy. Sometimes they don't. And especially when you're like living places long term, you don't want to have to buy a high chair everywhere you go, right? And it folds up, it goes in the diaper bag, we can take it with us.
Super smart.
Yeah, so that's another one. I know, I found it on Amazon and I was like, wow, we're really living in the future. Like,
Come on. I mean,
so
these things are important. What else?
The other thing I would say, diapers, you can get those anywhere, don't stress. Wipes, you can get those anywhere, don't stress. Ointments and creams are about the same thing. I think the really obvious things, even something like a water bottle or like a sippy cup, they have those in whatever country you're going to. Like, don't worry about it. Unless you have a kid that's just like, it has to be the blue one with Mickey Mouse, then do whatever you have to do.
Right.
But I think some of the other things, we have the carrier.
Yeah.
Because we like to get out. We like to explore. And then sometimes we have the carrier and the stroller. Zay's 4, sometimes he still doesn't want to walk.
Yeah.
Right? He's not always trying to be out here gallivanting the way we like to gallivant. So we can put Whitley in the carrier, Zay can be in the stroller, we can move freely that way. I think anything that facilitates like the ease of the activities you're trying to do. Right? If you're hiking, you have to have a baby carrier. You probably don't need a stroller. You know what I mean? Or even in Tulum, like we didn't bother bringing the stroller because the roads are not paved
cute
for the stroller.
They're
you know
not
what
cute.
I mean? But we brought the carrier with us.
Okay, makes sense.
So I think those are the big things: is stroller, carrier, the folding high chair and the diaper bag, because they just make everything else so
So
much
much
simpler.
easier. Okay. And last sort of traveling with kids question. You know, I've seen the parents getting on the plane, and there's either the we're chill, everybody's about to have fun type of parent, or there's the parent where you can tell they're super stressed, like hoping the kid doesn't disturb everybody else, doesn't cry, or, you know, what are some techniques you use to just remain chill? Because getting on a plane can be stressful with
It
young
is
kids.
stressful. Yeah, it is. I think, especially depending on their temperament.
Right?
Zay was like a colicky baby. Whitley's pretty chill.
Yeah.
So the mom that I was getting on the plane when Zay was little versus the mom that I'm getting on a plane now, it's two different moms, which is why you describe both of them. And I'm like, it's me, I'm both.
Right.
I would say, first of all, level set those expectations.
Yeah.
Sometimes babies cry on planes. And no one wants to be the mom sitting there bouncing the crying baby while people, you know, I don't know, make faces or whatever they do, but like, it happens.
It
Babies
happens.
cry on planes.
Right.
You can try to give them something, make sure they're not teething, feed them at takeoff to help their ears from popping, you know, make sure they have like a new novel toy to kind of play with, snacks. There's all the tips and tricks, but the first thing before you even get on the plane, level set your expectations. It may not be smooth, and that's okay. We're going to get there in one piece.
Right.
The second thing, I'm a meditator. I like to meditate, and whether that's like a deep trance after like some yoga and movement, or it's literally just sitting and like taking some deep breaths.
Yeah.
That's my thing. And Xavier does it too now.
Yeah.
He'll sit there and I'm like, have you meditated today? And he'll be like, and he'll like just do the whole thing. But I do think like being calm, because if you're frazzled, the baby's gonna feel you're frazzled, and then y'all are just both sitting there frazzled, staring at each other. And then making sure that anything you think you anticipate needing is within arm's reach.
Okay.
So I like to have a very organized diaper bag, right? Boom, water bottles right there, teething medicines right there, diapers, wipes. I kind of know where everything is. And I think psychologically knowing that I know where everything is also helps me feel calm, right? There's not anything that is actually within my control that's not within my control, right? So I think those are the things, you know, that level setting, that mindset, expectations, the baby might cry, it's going to be fine, won't crash the plane. Making sure to take a little bit of time ahead of getting on to like making sure that you're centered.
Yeah.
And then packing in a way that is smart and practical for you and your family, whatever that means.
So I'm so looking forward to connecting with you guys on YouTube. Where can people connect with you? Where can they find you? What are your handles?
Yes. So currently all of our handles are at o.family.adventures. And then our website is www.orgiasfamilyadventures.com. We have to make that one long.
How do you spell Orgias?
Orgias.
Awesome.
Yes. And I married into it, so even sometimes I look at it twice and I'm like, am I sure that's right? But yeah, ORGIAS, familyadventures.com, and then it's O.family.adventures on all of our social media handles.
Yay. So Courtney, what does the future look like? And I mean the next month.
Okay, I was about to say,
I know, right?
Plan.
When you travel, it's like, don't ask me about the next 5 years. Just, okay, what's happening in the next month or two? Where can people find you? Where will you be on this, in this universe?
Yeah, we'll be present.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just kidding. We'll be.
I like it. Period.
I made a joke the other day. I was like, that's another Shanique of Fro Family Travels. I made that joke with her because we were like, I don't know where I'm going to be next week, next month. People keep asking. I'm like, just tell them you're going to be present. And just period. No, we'll be in Mexico at least for another month or two.
Okay.
We have some stuff that we have to do back in Atlanta. At least one weekend we'll be up there. And then after that, I don't know yet. And I love that.
That is the magic of being this nomadic family and having the world ahead of you. Last question. What are some of the things, like, what do you miss? Because sometimes we're always like hating on on our home countries when it's like, you know, there's some things we miss too.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you miss on the road? When
I miss grits.
Oh, okay, now, yes.
I heard if you put popcorn in a blender, you can make them. I haven't tried it yet.
What?
I heard if you put popcorn in a blender, you can make grits.
Okay.
I'm gonna try. I'll let you know how it
We'll
goes.
see.
Maybe it's terrible. I miss grits. I miss crab legs. I miss biscuits.
Yes.
But I also think sometimes I miss sometimes I miss a little bit of just knowing what to expect.
Yeah.
And I think that can be a pro or that can be a con, but there's something really familiar about just like knowing what's going on or feeling like you know what's going on around you all the time.
Yeah. It's true. When I go and visit my kids in Toronto, I'm like, I know how you know, where everything is, where my favorite spots are, where I can get some rice and peas and curry goat, plantain.
Stop, it's lunchtime.
Courtney, it was wonderful getting to know you, and I can't wait to see where you guys will end up next. Thank you for joining us on Tulum Magazine.
Thank you so much for having me.